I'm going to show everyone who you really are." She lied to the court and painted me as abusive until the footage revealed everything. She exposed herself in court. I need to know if I'm losing my mind here. My sister Tessa has been living in my duplex for 14 months now. What started as just until I get back on my feet has become a full-blown occupation that's slowly destroying my sanity and my home. Last Thursday at Thanksgiving dinner, she decided to put on a show. The whole extended family was there: cousins, aunts, my grandmother, family friends. I'm sitting there trying to enjoy my mom's stuffing when Tessa suddenly announces to the entire table that I'm being super weird about her having friends over at our place. Our place. She actually said that, about my duplex, that I bought, with my money, after working 60-hour weeks for 3 years to save enough for a down payment. "Marcus is getting all uptight about me living my life," she says, laughing like it's the most ridiculous thing in the world. "He left me this dramatic little note about cleaning up after my friends. It was so cute but honestly kind of pathetic." The whole table is chuckling. My cousin Jake is shaking his head like, "Oh, Marcus." My Aunt Linda is making that sympathetic face she makes when someone's being unreasonable. Even my grandmother is smiling indulgently. The note wasn't dramatic. It said, "Please ask friends to use coasters and clean up after themselves. The coffee table has water rings and there are beer bottles everywhere. Thanks." But listening to her tell it, you'd think I'd written a manifesto about house rules. She's doing this thing where she tilts her head and uses her reasonable voice, explaining to everyone how I act like I own the place when she just wants to have people over sometimes. I do own the place. I literally own the place. "He's so controlling," she continues, and now my mom is nodding along. "Like, I get that it's his house, but I live there too. I should be able to have friends over without getting a lecture about coasters." My grandmother reaches over and pats my hand. "You need to learn to share, Marcus. Family is more important than furniture." I'm sitting there realizing that for over a year, Tessa has been painting me as this controlling, obsessive brother who can't handle normal social interaction. She's been telling everyone I'm unreasonable, that I'm weird about my space, that I'm too uptight to understand how normal people live. The worst part is watching my family buy into it completely. These are people who have known me my entire life, who watched me work double shifts through college to save money, who celebrated when I finally bought my first home. But somehow, Tessa's version of events makes more sense to them than mine. I think about all the times I've bitten my tongue over the past year. The mornings I've woken up to find pizza boxes on my coffee table, sticky rings where glasses sat all night. The times I've come home to find strangers in my kitchen, helping themselves to my food like they live there. The utility bills that have doubled because she runs the air conditioning at Arctic temperatures for her guests. After dinner, I pulled her aside. "We need to talk about boundaries." She rolled her eyes. "God, Marcus. You're doing it again." "Doing what?" "Being weird about everything. It's just a house. Just a house. The house I saved for 3 years to buy. The house where I work from home. The house that's supposed to be my sanctuary after dealing with code and clients all day. When I got home that night, I found her in my home office on a video call with someone using my desk setup. She waved at me like I was interrupting her. I think I'm going crazy. Is it unreasonable to want basic respect in my own home? The conversation didn't go well. Actually, that's an understatement. It was a complete disaster that opened my eyes to how manipulative my sister really is. I sat Tessa down last Sunday and explained that I needed her to start looking for her own place. I was reasonable about it. I gave her 60 days, offered to help with deposits, even said I'd write a reference letter. Her response: "You're kicking family out, really?" "I'm not kicking you out, I'm asking you to transition to your own place." "Same thing," she crossed her arms. "Mom is going to be so disappointed in you." And that's when I knew she'd already talked to Mom, probably the whole family. The way she said it wasn't surprise or hurt, it was confidence. Like she'd already set the pieces in motion for this exact conversation. Sure enough, my phone started ringing that night. Mom first, then Dad, then my Aunt Linda, all with the same message. "Why are you being so harsh? She's family. She's struggling. Can't you be more patient?" Tessa had got to them first, told them I was kicking her out with no warning. Said I was being abusive about the whole situation. My mother actually used the word heartless to describe me. I tried to explain my side, but it was like talking to a wall. They'd already made up their minds based on her version of events, but here's where it gets interesting. After that conversation, Tessa's behavior changed. Not better, worse. Much worse. It was like she'd been holding back before, testing boundaries. Now that she knew I wanted her out, she decided to make my life as miserable as possible. She started having people over every night. Not just friends hanging out, parties. Real parties. I'd come home from work to find strangers in my living room, drinking my beer, eating my food. I work from home 3 days a week. I need quiet to concentrate, to take client calls, to actually do my job. But suddenly my house was Grand Central Station. Music playing, people talking loudly, doors slamming at all hours. When I confronted her, she said, "Well, you want me gone anyway, might as well enjoy my last few weeks." That's when I understood. This wasn't about having fun. This was punishment. She was deliberately making my life hell because I dared to ask her to leave. Last Tuesday, I came home to find she'd given spare keys to 3 different people. Just handed them out like party favors. I only found out because one of her friends, this guy named Derek, answered my door like he lived there. "Oh hey, you must be Marcus," he said. "Tessa told me all about you." I'll bet she did. The guy was wearing my clothes, my favorite hoodie, the one I'd been looking for all week. He was drinking coffee from my mug, the one my college roommate gave me for graduation. I changed the locks that night. Tessa lost her mind. "You changed the locks? Are you serious?" She was screaming in my driveway at 11 p.m. "I live here, you live here temporarily, and you gave my keys to strangers. They're not strangers, they're my friends. I don't care if they're the Pope, you don't give out keys to my house." She called Mom right there on my driveway, put it on speaker so I could hear. "Mom, Marcus changed the locks. He's trying to lock me out of my own home." Her own home. My mother's voice came through the phone. "Marcus, give your sister a key right now, this is ridiculous." "She gave my keys to random people, Mom. They're her friends, you're being paranoid." I hung up and went inside. Tessa stood in the driveway for another hour, alternating between crying and screaming. The neighbors were starting to watch. Yesterday, I discovered she's been using my home office as her business headquarters. She's apparently started some kind of social media consulting thing and has been bringing clients to my house. Clients who park in my driveway, use my bathroom, drink my coffee. "I need somewhere professional to meet people," she said when I asked about it. "It's my office, where I work. You can work from your bedroom." I started documenting everything. Taking photos of the damaged cigarette burns on my coffee table, stains on my couch, a hole in my wall where someone apparently threw something. My utility bills have tripled because she's running the AC constantly for her guests. The breaking point came Friday night. I was working late, trying to finish a project that was due Monday morning when I heard music, loud music. I went downstairs to find 20 people in my living room. A full party in my house on a work night. I turned off the music. "Everyone needs to leave, now." The room went quiet. 20 pairs of eyes stared at me like I was the crazy one. After everyone left, Tessa cornered me. "You embarrassed me in front of my friends. You threw a party in my house without asking." "I shouldn't have to ask, I live here." Then she said something that made everything click. "I'm going to tell everyone how you really are, how controlling and weird you are, people should know." She's been doing this the whole time, controlling the narrative, making me the villain, turning my family against me so she can do whatever she wants. I've started keeping a journal of everything. Times, dates, photos, text messages. I have a feeling I'm going to need evidence soon. I thought I'd seen the worst of it. I was wrong. Last Monday, I came home from a client meeting to find my locks had been changed. Again, by Tessa. I stood in my own driveway, key in hand, unable to get into my own house. Through the window, I could see people inside, strangers, living in my space. The feeling was surreal, like being locked out of your own life. I called Tessa. "What did you do?" "I changed the locks back," she said, like it was the most reasonable thing in the world. "You were being unreasonable. It's my house. And I live here, I have rights." Rights. She actually said that. I called the police. The officer who responded was sympathetic but explained that since she'd been living there for over a year, it was technically a civil matter, tenant rights and all that. "But it's my house," I told him. "I understand, sir, but she's established residency. You'll need to go through formal eviction proceedings." While I was talking to the cop, Tessa came outside. She'd been crying, her eyes were red and puffy, perfect timing. "Officer, I'm so glad you're here," she said. My brother is trying to make me homeless. I've been living here for over a year and now he's trying to kick me out because I have friends over sometimes. The officer looked between us. Ma'am, is this your residence? Yes, I live here. I've lived here for over a year. Sir, is she on the lease? There's no lease. She's my sister. She was staying temporarily. Over a year isn't temporary, Tessa said. I have mail delivered here. I'm registered to vote at this address. This is my home. The officer basically told me to contact a lawyer and left. Tessa smirked as his car pulled away. But here's the thing, I'd been documenting everything. Photos, text messages, receipts. I had proof of the damage, the unauthorized parties, the key situation. I called a lawyer that afternoon. Meanwhile, Tessa was busy. She'd started a social media campaign about surviving family abuse. Posted photos of herself crying, talking about how her controlling brother was trying to make her homeless. The post got hundreds of sympathetic comments. She tagged our entire extended family. Cousins, aunts, family, friends, everyone saw her performance. My phone started ringing immediately. Marcus, how could you? My Aunt Linda sounded genuinely shocked. She's your sister. Did you see what she posted about you? My cousin Jake texted. Dude, this makes you look really bad. But the worst part was my parents. They called together on speakerphone. We raised you better than this, my mother said. Tessa is family, you don't abandon family. I'm not abandoning her, I'm asking her to get her own place. She can't afford her own place, my father said. You know she's struggling. She's not struggling, she's manipulating all of you. Don't you dare talk about your sister like that. That night, I couldn't get into my own house. I slept in my car in my own driveway. Through the windows, I could see people inside, using my furniture, eating my food, living in my space. The next morning, I called my lawyer. She explained the eviction process 30 days minimum, possibly longer if Tessa fought it. But she also mentioned something interesting. Has she been collecting rent from these people staying there? I hadn't thought about that. I don't know, maybe. If she's subletting without your permission, that's a different issue entirely. I started investigating. Turned out, Tessa had been charging 3 people to stay in my duplex. She'd advertised it on Facebook Marketplace as room rentals in a cool duplex. She was collecting $400 per person per month. She was making $1,200 a month renting out my house. My house. I took screenshots of everything. The Facebook posts, the Venmo transactions, the messages between her and her tenants. She'd been running an illegal subletting operation for 2 months. When I confronted her about it, she didn't even deny it. I needed the money, she said. You wouldn't let me have friends over, so I figured I'd make it worth my while. You're charging people to live in my house. I'm charging them to stay in my room. It's my space. Your space that you don't pay for. I pay in other ways. What other ways? She couldn't answer that. That's when I discovered the real scope of the problem. She'd been telling people she owned the duplex. Her tenants thought they were renting from her. She'd shown them fake lease agreements, collected security deposits, the whole thing. It was fraud, actual fraud. Before I could do anything legal, Tessa escalated again. She filed a restraining order against me. According to the paperwork, I had threatened her safety and was harassing her about money. She claimed I'd been stalking her and trying to break into her home. Her home. My house was now legally considered her home in court documents. She had witnesses too, 3 family members who testified that I'd been acting erratically and making threats. They'd only heard her side of the story, but their testimony was enough to get a temporary restraining order. I couldn't go to my own house. I couldn't contact my sister. I couldn't even drive down my own street without potentially violating a court order. Tessa had won. She was living in my house, collecting rent from strangers, and I was legally prohibited from going near the place. That's when I realized this wasn't just about boundaries anymore. This was war. The security cameras changed everything. I'd installed them 6 months ago after a break-in in the neighborhood. Basic system cameras covering the front door, back door, and driveway. I'd completely forgotten about them until my lawyer asked if I had any evidence of Tessa's behavior. The footage was devastating. 3 months of evidence showing exactly what had been happening at my house. Tessa throwing parties every night, strangers coming and going at all hours, people carrying furniture out of my house, my furniture, her counting money from her tenants on my kitchen counter, and most importantly, clear footage of her changing the locks while I was at work. But the best part, the footage from the night she claimed I threatened her safety. According to her restraining order petition, I had aggressively confronted her and made threatening gestures during an argument about rent. She claimed I'd cornered her and raised my voice in a threatening manner. The security footage showed me standing in my own driveway, 10 feet away from her, speaking in a normal voice. She was the one yelling, gesturing wildly, and at one point she actually threw something at me. A shoe, I think. My lawyer played the footage at the restraining order hearing. The judge watched 3 months of evidence in fast-forward parties, strangers, property damage, Tessa's illegal subletting operation. "Ms. Williams," the judge said to Tessa, "you filed this petition claiming your brother threatened you. Can you point to any threatening behavior in this footage?" Tessa's lawyer, yes, she'd hired a lawyer with money from illegally subletting my house, tried to argue that the cameras were invasive and violated her privacy. "Your Honor, my client has a reasonable expectation of privacy in her home." "Her home?" The judge looked confused. "This is the petitioner's property. He owns the house. My client has been residing there for over a year. She has established tenancy rights." While illegally subletting rooms without the owner's permission, Tessa's lawyer had no answer for that. The restraining order was dismissed immediately. The judge actually apologized to me for the inconvenience, but it got better. The judge asked if I wanted to press charges for the false restraining order petition. In our state, filing a false protection order is a misdemeanor. I said yes. Tessa looked shocked. Like she couldn't believe there were consequences for her actions. "Your Honor," she said, "he's my brother. I was just trying to protect myself." "From what?" "The footage shows him speaking calmly while you threw objects at him. He was being controlling. He was asking you to move out of his house." The judge ordered Tessa to immediately stop collecting rent from unauthorized tenants and gave her 72 hours to remove all non-residents from the property. She also scheduled a hearing for the criminal charges. I finally got to go home, my own home, after 3 weeks in a hotel. The house was trashed, completely trashed. Holes in walls, stains on carpets, broken furniture. My home office had been turned into someone's bedroom. My kitchen was filthy. There was drug paraphernalia in my bathroom, but the worst part was my bedroom. Tessa had moved into my bedroom and was renting out what used to be her room. She'd been sleeping in my bed, using my dresser, going through my personal belongings. I took photos of everything, sent them to my lawyer and my insurance company. When Tessa came home that night, she found me cleaning up the mess in my kitchen. "You can't just kick my friends out," she said. "They have rights too." "They have no rights, they're not legal tenants. I gave them leases. Fake leases that you had no authority to create. Whatever, you're being vindictive." "I'm being legal," she tried a different approach. "Marcus, we're family, can't we work this out? You filed a false restraining order against me." I was scared. "Of what?" "Me asking you to move out." "You were being aggressive." "I have it on camera, Tessa, all of it." That's when she realized how much trouble she was in. The fake leases, the illegal subletting, the false restraining order, it was all documented. She started crying. Real tears this time, not the performance tears. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she said. "What did you mean for it to go?" I needed somewhere to live." "And you were being so rigid about everything." "Rigid? I asked you to use coasters. It felt like you were trying to control me. I was trying to protect my property." "It's just stuff, Marcus. It's my stuff in my house that I work to pay for." She didn't understand. Even then, facing criminal charges and eviction, she didn't understand why I was upset. The next morning, I found her packing. Finally. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Mom and Dad's. They're letting you move back in. Temporarily." I almost laughed. "How temporarily?" "Until I figure things out." "Like you figured things out here," she didn't answer. "But here's the thing, my parents called that afternoon." "Marcus, we need to talk," my mother said. "Tessa told us what happened in court." "Good, then you know she filed a false restraining order." "She said you had her arrested." "I pressed charges for filing false documents." "She's your sister. She's a criminal. Don't talk about her like that." "Mom, she was running an illegal business out of my house. She committed fraud. She made some mistakes. She made deliberate choices. You're being vindictive." "I'm being legal." My father got on the phone. "Son, family is more important than money. This isn't about money, it's about respect." "She's learned her lesson." "Has she? Because she still doesn't think she did anything wrong." They wanted me to drop the charges. "For the sake of the family." I said no. That's when I realized something important. This wasn't just about Tessa. This was about a family system that enabled her behavior, that made excuses for her, that expected me to absorb the consequences of her choices. I was done being the responsible one who cleaned up everyone else's messes. It's been 6 months since I got my house back. 6 months since I learned what boundaries actually mean and what happens when you enforce them. Tessa is still living with our parents. What was supposed to be temporary has become permanent, just like it was with me. Except now Mom and Dad are experiencing what I dealt with for over a year. Last week my mother called me. She sounded tired. "Marcus, I need to ask you something." "What's up, Mom? How did you handle Tessa's friends coming over all the time?" I almost smiled. "I didn't handle it well, that's why I asked her to move out. She's having people over every night, your father and I can't sleep. Have you talked to her about it? She says we're being controlling. That she's an adult and can have friends over." "Sound familiar?" There was a long pause. "I'm starting to understand why you were so frustrated. Are you?" "She's been using our credit cards, says she'll pay us back when she gets her business going." "What business?" "Some social media thing. She's been bringing clients to the house." The same pattern, the exact same pattern. "Mom, you need to set boundaries." "But she's family." "Family doesn't mean accepting abuse." "It's not abuse, Marcus, she's just difficult. She's manipulative, there's a difference." My mother sighed. "I don't know what to do anymore." "You do what I did, you set clear expectations and enforce them. But where will she go? That's not your problem to solve. She's my daughter. And I'm your son, but you expected me to handle her behavior indefinitely." Another long pause. "I think I owe you an apology." "You think?" "I'm sorry, Marcus, I didn't understand what you were going through." It felt good to hear, but it also felt too late. The damage to our relationship had been done. Here's what's changed in my life. I met someone. Her name is Lauren. She's a second-grade teacher, and she has the healthiest relationship with boundaries I've ever seen. When I told her about the situation with Tessa, she didn't try to convince me to work things out or be the bigger person. She just listened and then said, "That sounds really hard. I'm glad you stood up for yourself." I'm glad I stood up for myself too. Lauren and I have been dating for 4 months now. She's never once suggested that I should reconcile with family members who don't respect me. She's never made me feel guilty for having standards. She actually appreciates that I know how to set boundaries. "It makes me feel safe," she told me. "Knowing that you won't let people walk all over you means you won't let people walk all over me either." I'd never thought about it that way, but she's right. Learning to protect myself taught me how to protect the people I care about. My house is peaceful now. I work from my home office without interruption. I have friends over when I want to, not when someone else decides to throw a party. I sleep in my own bed every night. It sounds simple, but after everything that happened, simple feels revolutionary. 3 months ago, my cousin Jake reached out. He'd been one of the family members who'd initially supported Tessa, but apparently she'd tried to move in with him after things got bad with our parents. "Dude, I owe you an apology," he said. "I had no idea what she was really like." "What happened?" "She stayed with us for 2 weeks. 2 weeks, Marcus. She nearly destroyed my marriage." "How?" "She was bringing random guys over, using our place like a hotel. My wife found her going through our bedroom looking for something to borrow. She was stealing our food, our toiletries, even our clothes." "Did you kick her out?" "I had to. Sarah gave me an ultimatum: Tessa goes or she goes. And Tessa called me controlling, said I was choosing my wife over family." "What did you say?" "I said, damn right, I'm choosing my wife over family. My wife respects me." These conversations have been happening more frequently. Family members who initially sided with Tessa are starting to see the pattern. She's tried to move in with 3 different relatives since leaving our parents' house. Each time, the same thing happens: parties, disrespect, manipulation, and eventually she gets kicked out. But she never learns. She just moves on to the next person who will enable her behavior. Last month she reached out to me directly, first contact in 6 months. "Marcus, I know we've had our differences, but I'm in a really tough spot right now." "What kind of tough spot?" "I need somewhere to stay for a few weeks, just until I get back on my feet." The audacity was breathtaking. After everything: the illegal subletting, the false restraining order, the property damage, she was asking to move back in. "That's not going to happen, Tessa. Come on, we're family. Family doesn't commit fraud against each other. I made some mistakes, but I've learned from them. Have you? Because you've tried to move in with 3 different relatives since leaving my place. That's different. How is it different? Those situations were complicated. And ours wasn't. You're my brother, you're supposed to help me. I did help you. For over a year. That wasn't helping, that was controlling. Even then, even after everything, she couldn't take responsibility for her actions. I'm not going to do this with you again, Tessa. Fine, but don't come crying to me when you need family support. I won't. And I won't. I've learned that family isn't about blood relations, it's about mutual respect and support. Lauren is more family to me than most of my actual relatives. I've built a chosen family of people who value honesty, respect, and boundaries. People who don't expect me to sacrifice my well-being for their convenience. For anyone dealing with a similar situation, here's what I've learned. You are not responsible for other people's choices. You are not required to sacrifice your well-being for family harmony. Boundaries are not mean they're necessary. People who violate your boundaries will always make you feel guilty for having them. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Get legal advice when necessary. And remember, you can't change other people, but you can change how you respond to them. 6 months ago, I thought I was losing my family. Now I realize I was finding myself. I'm happier than I've been in years. My house is peaceful. My relationships are healthy. My boundaries are strong. Tessa is still looking for someone to take advantage of, but it won't be me, not anymore.